Give it up, give a big Flat Earth Social welcome to Mr. Martin Liedtke. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys, awesome to be here. I'm really buzzing to be here. Can't believe so many people turned up. I can't believe so many people are, still actually, looking for the truth and being brave and being courageous and getting out there, out of the house, breaking pattern, getting out, meeting people and making the effort to come and meet yours truly. So, I'm Martin Liedtke. I don't know if if you don't know me already. I'm AKA Flat Earth British on YouTube. I've been there for 9 years from the get-go. Really came in not far after Max Sargent and Geronism and Eric Dubé and all the rest, Matt Powland, and I had a voice in my head. Actually, it was the weirdest thing, right? When I basically first got into Flat Earth and I first realised, I was like, oh my God. I had a voice in my head and it said this, it said these words, it said, if you let this pass you by, you will regret it till the day you die. So I thought, well, yeah, I better not let this pass me by then. So I started posting and I was like not really into it at the time, but I thought, the message and, the deeper implications of what was happening was far too important than worrying about my own safety, my own ego and all the rest of it. So I just let go and I spoke the truth. And it's been a hell of a journey since. I've gone down so many roads, so many things have happened, you wouldn't believe it. It's been the adventure of a lifetime, bringing the truth to the people. I've literally woken tens of millions at this stage, and all of the truthers, we got to all get together and we keep on pushing with this. And it's not going to be beyond the possibility that there will be a critical mass, a tipping point, when, everybody would be freely okay to talk about Flat Earth without being ridiculed, Because, in the early days of Flat Earth, people like Simon Dan, excuse my language, he's shit out of nowhere, he's like, he's committed to his cause of making videos about Flat Earthers every day. Now, there are stacks of them, and when he first made a video, about me, which was really rubbish, by the way, I just got inundated by thousands of glow people every day. And they had the most unkindest people. I couldn't believe it. They were saying things like, did your mother drop on your head? Why didn't you go and kill yourself? This, that, the other. So I was waking up every single day. I was going to my computer and my vibration was instantly dropped and I was really down. And it was basically hurting my soul. I couldn't do it. I'm just not designed for that. I'm an empath. I can't take that shit. So I basically thought, well, I'm just going to be I'm just going to be constantly attacked in this. So I looked into a field that I was interested in, which was alternative history, okay? Where I live in Cardiff, there's a load of archaic buildings, which all have the date on them of around 1880s, 1870s. So my question was, and it has been right through my life, is where's the rest of the old world? Where is everything? It's either Gothic churches or 1780s. Where is the rest of the world? Where's the rest of the human race? Well, with their evolutionary ideas, which obviously is just a theory and rubbish, they tell you that we have learned nothing, right, until the last 150 years, or maybe since the Industrial Revolution. Then we got smart all of a sudden, and all of this stuff just appeared in the last 150 years. We went from the Kitty Hawk to the Hadron Collider within 50 years. It just makes no sense, okay? Something else has been going on. And the history books, they're lies. They just go to the victors, okay? The real history is far more interesting, and I can see why they hid it as well, okay? I can see why they hid the real history and what's been happening in this place. And the Flat Earth is a biggie. That was brought in by the same people who cover the information about the historical narrative, okay? It's exactly the same controllers. The controllers, if you're looking for a name to put on them, I call them the Phoenicians, okay? You can call them who you want. If everyone's looking for a name game, blame game in this, that's a bad energy attachment. I don't really do this. I know that there's a power out there, okay, which has not got our best interests at heart. Would love to shut us up, because it's going to change people's paradigms, Spen will tell you I did debating. Oh, there you are. Very sorry. I did debating in the Botanical Gardens here the last time I appeared in this. Last time I visited this venue, and we were debating people just from the street in Bournemouth, and then it occurred to me how far we need to go. 80% were just fast asleep, watching their televisions, not knowing anything about their reality. Few people had open minds, were willing to consider it, and other people were just plain abusive. I was like, oh dear. And I've been doing street activism for, something like a decade now, coming up to, and it's really difficult. You know, it's a hard game, you know, to get people to come around, to, you know, just to question their reality. What are we actually talking about, guys? What we're standing on? You know, perspective is not curvature. It is a simple one. You know, I've been searching for the curve for 10 years. Yeah, it is not there. It is not there. Can you hear me at the back? Yeah, could you hear me by there? No? All right, very sorry. And the reason I held it away is because I did a convention once in Birmingham and there was a woman sat by there. She said, "Do you mind keeping your voice down?" I was like, and then she nodded off in the chair. I was like, am I that dull? So yeah, I'm going to start this off. We're going to have a little giggle, right? What I like to do best is have a little giggle at the absurdity and the ridiculousness. That is NASA. Okay, that is just ridiculous in its entirety. I'm going to show you some of the images that I collected years ago. I got what's called a NASA butthurt file. Okay, if people are believers in the globe idea, after watching this and what I'm going to show you now, you're going to have to think to yourself, well, that is not exactly humanly possible, and they are lying. Okay, in fact, you know, I wrote this book back in 2018. It was released and then COVID hit. It went absolutely nuts. That was my first book. Now, to my mind, this was, I think, the hardest evidence to support the flat Earth. This was the double torus electromagnetic model, which is encoded everywhere in our reality. In fact, you can't even miss it. It was overwhelming, overwhelming evidence of the flat Earth in the Holy Grail of the flat Earth. So, without further ado, we're going to look at the NASA butthurt file. Now, I collected this and a load of NASA images back, actually, 2014, before I actually talked about flat Earth. I'm old enough to remember the lunar missions, okay? I was about 5 when the colour ones were happening, you know, the later ones, when they were ripping round on the moon in their beach buggies and stuff. And I remember sitting, it was on FEB Channels at the time, so you couldn't really avoid it. Yeah, it was just like HTV, ITV, when you had 3 channels back then. And I remember sitting there on the floor and thinking, no, that can't be happening. Even then, at 5, it's just like, this can't be happening, that's just rubbish. Men ripping around on the moon in cars. Yeah, whatever, I'll get it up there. So I selected a load of NASA images early, which show you the Gemini mission and some of the Apollo missions. Now, what you find with space missions, right? First, just remember, it's an absolute vacuum, okay? It's scorching hot and freezing cold all at the same time. Don't worry, I'm not going to go into that. And what you find as well, right, is there's a man hanging round in space, taking photographs of everything. Like every satellite you ever see, I know they're CGI, but let's just pretend for a minute that they're real, okay? So there's a man hanging round in space, and he's taking photographs of space shrimps, as we like to call them in the flat Earth. So the limb is ridiculous. I went to the dun, 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 bullshit! Dun, 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 dun. So, Earthrise. Now, if this was a reality, working on the dynamics of how big the moon is supposed to be compared to the Earth, like a fourth of the size, then in reality, if that was a reality, it would fill the entire horizon of the moon, which is bullshit. So yeah, they've led everyone to believe they're on a blue ball, spinning in space, erratically, breakneck speeds in different directions, all at the same time. And where are we going? Well, they don't really know, see, because the universe is expanding and it's accelerating into nothing because they don't know. But whatever. So, there are thousands of NASA images you can pull apart. The lighting problems, the lighting indiscrepancies, and this is apparently the limb that's landed down, which on the film shows a huge plume of dust coming up, but the dust doesn't settle into the legs of the limb at all. So yeah, I went to the Space Centre in Leicester back a few years ago with a load of flat earthers, Nick and Oakley, people like that. And they had a version of the limb in there, and I was like, oh my god, did they actually sell people who went up in that? This thing looks like a junk pile, it looks like it's been in a skip, okay? And they say that they took not in this mission, but later missions, they took the moon module, the car, the greatest, most expensive car in reality, they tucked it away onto Earth. And apparently, they changed into their spacesuits inside this tiny little module. So I don't want to discuss how decompression works and the vacuum outside and inside when they open the doors. They must be really big in there, like a TARDIS maybe, where there's space for decompression. Dun, 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 dun. So the moon, okay, well if you follow that Earth, you're going to know about Dr. Patet, okay? Do you know about Dr. Patet, the NASA scientist? He's a very, very embarrassing human being, actually. He's one of NASA's paid jokes. He basically stated that we destroyed all the telemetry to go to the moon, and it's a painful process to put it back together again. Meaning, they could never go to the moon again. Unless you're in India. And then you could go to the moon. So yeah, this was 1969, so they thought like when the link was taken off to go back up, to link up to Michael Collins, who's supposedly orbiting. Remember what orbiting means? Orbiting means falling away from a body at 17,500 miles an hour. And apparently that's the same true for the moon. Anything on slingshot, 17,500 miles an hour. So apparently this goes up and catches Michael Collins, who's gone at 79,000 miles an hour orbiting the moon, and just coincidentally meets up with him, links up, and comes back 250,000 miles to Earth. Ridiculous. So there's many ideas that Stanley Kubrick probably directed this movie in the studios in Britain, and a lot of people think it's Arizona, and look at that. And many people have seen the flag. You don't need me to tell you about the flag, do you? Well, they say it was made of aluminium. It naturally crinkles up when you open it, like a sweetie wrapper, and opens like, that's what they say. But if you watch a video, this thing's flapping in the wind because it's in the wind. And another thing they do up on the moon, right, is they trash the place. They just leave their junk everywhere. They just don't care. Now, apparently, okay, there's stuff left on the moon. Apparently the modules, the original landers, all still left on the moon. So, in theory, the Hubble Space Telescope, if it was a real thing, should be able to turn around and actually look at the moon and show us these things. That would be really good. But a 380 from one of the ISS astronauts would be really good on their mobile phones. Maybe crank up a livey on YouTube. That would be really interesting. But obviously, never going to be able to do that. So, beyond that window there, I'm going to show you another image of this window, is a vacuum, absolute vacuum, not a vacuum that doesn't exist on Earth, because it doesn't exist anywhere naturally on Earth, outside of a vacuum chamber, is the worst environment they could possibly imagine or invent, the vacuum. So outside, there he is. This is actually Buzz Aldrin on his first ever spacewalk. Before he's done any of these Apollo missions, he's on the Gemini mission when he does his first spacewalk. So he sticks his head out, okay, at the capsule, and it's going to 79,000 miles an hour. Now they say, okay, well there's no drag because it's a vacuum. But they changed the narrative in the last 2 years. If you look on Google now, they actually state that the moon is in the Earth's atmosphere. No, that's what they're saying. They're saying, oh no, the atoms from outside of Earth, they're travelling all the way out to the moon, and it's actually enclosed in our atmosphere, and there are atoms, and it all causes drag on these things. So they can have it both ways, but this thing is apparently falling away. And what you find, let me just flick through a couple of images, is the most important, most expensive experiment in human history, okay? And it's all made of gaffer tape, and there's holes everywhere, and there's wires sticking out, and there's lights sticking out. Let me show you some screws missing. Now this, no really, they got screws missing. Well, it's not important, it's only a vacuum of space, it's only human lives, nothing's going to go wrong. This thing here, if you can see this thing in the corner here, I'll show you another image of this car aerial thing. You can see that it's not actually connected to the steel plate. I'll show you another image because it's hardboard behind, okay? And that's obviously a car speaker, but you can see there's a screw missing there, a screw missing there. But it doesn't matter because it's only the vacuum of space and nothing can happen because... Right, so you're going up in your space rocket, okay, your spaceship, and a wire's ripped out and it's disconnected. There's a big chunk out, like an animal have come along and took a big chunk out of it, and there's a wire hanging down, and this is on a spaceship in space, and there's nothing going on and there's nothing wrong. And they're not alarmed and they're not going to die at all.
no imminent danger of dying. Okay, I'm just saying. So yeah, they are pathetic. This is supposed to be in space, okay? So they've had green screens since at least, you can check this out for yourself, Luminate brothers, French brothers making films, turn of the last century. 1900s, they were using green screens. They were using what essentially like holographic projections, but trickery, camera trickery. 1900, even before then, the Luminate brothers were doing it. So you think that's not possible, that could be in a fish tank, which they got, and then that is a green screen in the background. Anyway, so let's look at this unbelievably ridiculous, Gemini. Let me just get to the maggage. Dun, 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 dun. So, no, you've got to do that. So, can you see this car aerial thing here? This wiggly squiggly thing, which does absolutely nothing. It's just something out of the arts and crafts department to make it look like a spaceship. They use bits of egg carton and washing up liquid bottle on this. It's like Blue Peter, here's one we made earlier, you know? So you can see the hardboard sticking out. There's some glimpse of light on one of the other shops as well, sticking out of it, because it's not there. Because if it was, they'd all be dead. There's hardboard behind that there. And I've gone over this with a fine-tooth comb. It's all gaffer taped up over the holes to stop the vacuum leaking in. That's all you need. That's all you need. If the vacuum is leaking in, it's a bit gaffer tape. No, gaffer tape is really important, guys. Duct tape is better. A bit of chewing gum. Yeah? Stop the vacuum in space, no problemo. And you need to borrow your your father's car radio speaker, and then stick it on your spaceship. Yeah? So, I had a neighbour years ago called Tudor. He was a bit of a nutcase, and he built a spaceship in his garden. Guess what it looked like? Like that. Coincidentally, old Tudor's spaceship. I once went in there. I was like, "Yeah, nice spaceship, Tudor." He's like, "Thanks, Matt. Going out in it tonight." I was like, "Yeah, thanks, man. Nice one, Tudor." So, this thing here is just a normal 1960s car aerial type of thing, or what I had on my black and white colour television. My black and white television when I was a sprog in my bedroom. I had exactly the same aerial as that. So they're probably going to speak to President Nixon from that, because they can talk to people on Earth. They've got amazing communications from these things, these vacuum-proof gaffer tape things that they fly with car speakers. I wonder why they would have speakers. What music would they play in space? Oh, that's right. There's no sound in a vacuum, is there? I don't know. Why would they need car speakers? Anyway, so yeah, they don't cover conduits, they don't cover pipes, they don't cover any messy wiring or broken wiring or anything, because it's not important, because they don't think anyone's going to actually physically pick these apart in the future, maybe. I don't know why they would be so stupid to let all of this released. But I have picked it apart with a fine-tooth comb, to be honest, and they were in NASA, proper NASA images. So, you're in space, okay? Vacuum of space is outside, so imminent death is outside. It will suck your eyeballs out of your bum. It's not going to be a good thing, okay, guys? You've seen how this goes down, right, with Arnold Schwarzenegger, when he's on Mars, go get Copenhagen, Total Recall, you know how that goes down. That's what's going to happen to you, a vacuum, okay? So there's a big gap under the window. It's okay. It's a spaceship. It's safe. It's vacuum outside. So there's a big gap underneath there. But that's okay. And you don't need to paint it over. It's only the most expensive project in human history. Now you don't need to paint it over. No one's going to notice. It's perfectly safe. You will not die. But it does show. Dun, 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 dun. It's ridiculous. So what are we standing on? What are we standing on? Tesla said you could not measure the dimensions of this place because he said it was a realm. I'm not inclined to go like that. Okay. Now the outer limit, sure, it doesn't seem to be out that any of us can go and have a check for ourselves past the 60th parallel line south and go check out Antarctica, because there is definitely something going on with Antarctica. There's just no doubt about it, guys. They carnage the rest of Earth like there's no tomorrow, but we're going to keep that place pristine for experimental purposes, and when you look into it, there's nothing. Same as NASA. Oh yeah, this stuff's really important to mankind. We just invented Velcro. Oh, wicked. That should sort things out big time. Thanks, Velcro. So, they left a load of these intrachronometers and apparently a mirror on there, which Brian Cox will tell you. Did I just say that out loud? No, that's correct. Brian Cox will tell you that they shoot lasers at the moon and back again. Okay, but it's obviously hitting the firmament and coming back again. But he's just a spanner, isn't he? So he actually was on a television show trying to debunk flat Earth, and this is what he could come out with. This is a professor and a physicist, apparently, but he's not really. He's Tavistock from a shitty rock band back in the day, isn't he? Dreams can only get better. And he said that even his children could see the boats going over the horizon. So that was it. Pitiful, don't you think? So yeah, apparently they left all this stuff up there. It's supposed to be up there to this day. But these footprints, there's actually photographs out there. If you compare Neil Armstrong's footprints with the footprints there, they don't match at all. Anyway, and there's also Mars bar wrappers left on the moon as well, apparently. So it is a phenomenon, the moon. You know, I'm a flat earther, so I'm in the realm of I don't really care what's happening up there. It's about what's happening here and laterally. You know. I was in a movie last year, I don't know if any of you seen it, The Next Level by Hitler Productions, when I stated that I really do think there's more land. I really do. The electromagnetic model that I presented in this leaves. It shows you on a map that I will show you shortly from a park in Sydney that shows you a flat earth map, and it shows you what's called technesmia lines, or the magnetic fields around the flat earth. Basically the torus field, whoever designed that pack knew everything about what was in there. But it does leave area from separate magnetic fields for other lands. I think that's hard evidence, for me anyway. And I think they're hiding other lands, I think that's what it's all about. And demeaning us, taking away the creator. Obviously, Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio for me, when you get down to it, it's bits of information. Something or someone is encoded this place. Someone has put this place here, and it is all mathematics, which is all, the only weapon they've got against anything is mathematics. Everything is based in theorem. Nothing is based in reality. So, for me it was easy because I always go with my personal experience, my consciousness experience, what I experience in this place. And I'm never, you know, whatever anyone else thinks is great, but I'm never going to ever see a globe. Ever. And nobody will ever see a globe. None of us will ever see one. The only place you'll see it is on the internet, on a shitty telly. It's the only place it exists. It doesn't exist anywhere else. So what does this place look like? Well, I always dreamt, it was one of my dreams early in Flat Earth, because I'm into maps, to be able to be given the map of this place. And I actually had a dream once, I was in Istanbul, and an Arab guy came up to me outside the Hagia Sophia, which I visited in the past, and he said, "I've got the map." And I was like, "What?" And I followed him and he disappeared, and I literally woke up in a cold sweat. It's like, ah! I was that far away from the real map, if it's even possible to have a real map. Like I said, perspective is not curvature, there is no curvature, and to me, you know, I got different ideas of what I think's going on, you know. I think that there's water above, okay, because the sky's blue, it looks like water. Bible says there's waters above, there's waters below. Lots of other things also say there's waters above, waters below. I instinctively feel, because of my research into resets, namely Noah's flood, etc., that water comes in from elsewhere. And I think it's the firmament. And what it is, I think there's windows, it could be made of glass, could be made of thick blue glass, or electromagnetic layers, or even you can hold water in place with an acoustic sound. You can hold water in stasis with an acoustic sound. So I proposed in Flat Earth book that I wrote that Mount Meru in the centre looks exactly like an upside down speaker and acts the same. It was given up a low audible frequency, okay, which is the sound everyone can hear, the hum, the Bristol hum, some people regard it as the hum, and it holds the dome in stasis. That's one idea, I think, anyway. But I definitely think there's water above. I think there's a wider sea above as well. in the wider ocean. And in my field, I go into, as I said, resets. I think that Noah's flood was more recent than what the Bible tells us. And there was lots of survivors, but most people perished, and it's called a reset. And this happens cyclically, okay? Civilization gets so far with this conscious evolution that they have to fry it, okay? They have to end it. Now, consciousness at the moment is in a lump. Everyone is struggling for energy. Everyone, the whole place, not just a whole realm, everyone is saying exactly the same. And the sun is on a white LED when it was a yellow sodium. The sun is losing energy. This place is losing energy, okay? And consciousness is suffering. But the good news is, this has happened before. When we get through this rough patch here, which is the reset, which we're going through right now, we're mid-flows of this reset, they're switching over to AI, they're integrating it, smart cities, you know this is going to go down, it's a big, bad beast. You know, we've got to find a way to get around to all of this. That's going to be a science in itself. Yeah? We get to a point in consciousness, and then they stop it. And then we start over, and we get to a place where we were before, which I'm going to show you examples from when I talk about my subject. In the 1800s, up to the point of reset, consciousness was at a higher standing. The creativity in humans was off the radar. Their handwriting was perfect. Their writing was perfect. Everything, their literature, what was coming out of that period was fantastic, including the architecture. But none of that architecture can be copied in the modern day. All they're doing now is steel and glass, temporary buildings made out of concrete blocks and corrugated iron, because it's built temporary for a reason, because they're not too concerned about the future. And why would that be? We're going to go through this whether we want it or not. It's been happening since you know when, and the world is just recovering. People are in trauma, they don't know, and after all the weirdness, and it's just got extra weird now, since then, and people don't know which way to turn. It's a really, really confusing state of affairs. It's okay, because that's what happens. Consciousness gets really confused, it bumps into one another, it doesn't know what it's doing. But it gets past that, and then it all goes back up again. And then all of that creativity and all of that thing that we had before in consciousness, we're going to get it back. And that is coming, okay? And that is in the near future. We just got to stick this out, okay? I know it feels weird, and everything that they're doing is just seemingly against us, but you could hold it in the frame of mind as maybe they're just trying to protect the masses from the real knowledge, because they're panicky and they're scary and they can just freak out. You know, times I've like shattered some. I got tiptoe now when I'm talking to people, because if I go in deep and I just like, I talked to a guy earlier and he just got his hair off of me and walked off, didn't he? Because I mentioned alternative history. Don't touch my paradigm, dude. Yeah, I'm happy in my place. Yeah, my life's coochie. I don't need it. Now, coochie is cosy in Welsh, by the way. From Wales, in case you never noticed. Probably noticed, anyway. So yeah, NASA, biggest bunch of liars, but not really worried about, most people going on about like, well, they're ripping us off. Well, they're not ripping me off, because I'm Welsh, I don't pay NASA. But yeah, it's the biggest question people mostly ask is why. There's so many reasons for why, guys, why they will hide it, Like I said, maybe they're trying to protect the place. But the thing is this coming out whether they like it or not. There's tens of millions, probably hundreds of millions, that know about flat Earth. We're white guys. I seen a meme the other day in Japan. They know nothing about us. We know nothing about them. It was an auditorium full with 1,000 people, all doing flat Earth science. They're all flat earthers. They got places in Spain and in South America where this is getting really massive. I know Google tells us that this is fading away. We had bigger hits back in the day than Lady Gaga or Trump and all that. We were the biggest thing on the internet, and then they said that it was going quiet. No, man, it went the other way. I got a suspicion that this awakening probably was something to do with why they locked everybody down. stops everything, stopping everyone, you know, on that forward lunge. Hang on, we got to quiet these people down, we've got to shut them up, let them stay at home and have a little think about what they're doing. So yeah, let's have a little giggle at NASA for a minute, because this is the all-knowing creator. I think the creator put it here. I think that we're divine. I think that we already know the answers. We already know. What we're looking for is confirmation. What's that, bro? Yeah, I am. The thing is, I could just go for hours. Confirmation is what most people are looking for. We already know the answers, okay? Endless amounts of NASA messery. This one here, I'm sure you've seen the videos, they got literally a cloth door that, you know, flaps in the wind, which is absolutely ridiculous. And obviously, this is scientifically impossible on a ball. Okay, ships hanging upside down, I would love to see. Maybe they could show us that with the Hubble telescope. Zoom in to maybe Melbourne, show us all of them people walking upside down. That'd be really groovy. There's loads of things we can do. Instead of investing all that money and all that, then trolls. There you are, it's Daffy there, he's just killing the blow for me, well done. Yeah, make them all big enough, make it simple, keep saying it, and eventually they will believe it. Adolf Hitler, no shit, that's exactly what goes on, keep saying it. So, does that drive you nuts? Space hair. Space hair. Does it do your head in? Yeah? Yeah, she's upside down, honestly, isn't she? I don't want to know what's going on with her hair, but imagine if that was a real scenario with all of that stuff flying around, and hairspray, and water, with all of the devices and wires. It's just imminent death. I remember when Smelly Kelly was on British telly, and he basically, oh God, they asked him what was the most scary thing. I thought he's definitely going to say the fear of imminent death. He said, oh, when your socks go missing. And the guy was interviewing, when your socks go missing, he said, yeah, you'll never find them again. I was like, oh my God, you people. Look at him. So this is, there's Neil, he loves space rockets. Well, we know about Neil, don't we? So, sex anytime, anywhere, in space, apparently. Yeah. And that's what somebody left their dog on the moon. He's still digging for a bone. Yeah, he's still up there till this day. Because apparently, because with the time thing differential, like he's going to live for 100 years up there. No one will even know. Better, if you go to Mars, you can live to like hundreds. It's great, guys. There's Neil when he gets to Europe on flat earth British. He doesn't like me at all. Well, he won't like me. He's bouncing Europe on me. Oh, Martin, look, doesn't like me. Yeah, I'd love to. Oh, this guy, oh my God. So it costs like $60,000 a pound in weight to take stuff up to the ISS. So he takes a load of weed up, he takes food with him, and he takes a guitar and a gorilla suit because it's £80,000 a pound. He can take what he wants. It's absolutely ridiculous. And he's got pita breads. What about the crumbs? Get stuck in everything. 1969, a bit of psychedelia, make it all complete, mix it all true, you see. And what a brilliant. Oh, look at this. So. What you get with the ISS, you will not see one video of the ISS where they don't do the old tuck-in. Do you know about the tuck-in? So they tuck all of their shirt in and all that into their trousers to hide their harnesses, okay? And they do the old, because if you don't know whether you can notice, he's got a square leg. Because square leg's natural. Everyone's got a square leg, haven't they? And it's got like this padding in his chest as well. Can you see the padding every time he flips? Because everyone's got a square chest and padding, hasn't he? So yeah. But that's been caught out a million times, hasn't it, what they're up to on the IFS. There's Ozzy Osbourne, he was going to go up to the moon. Did you see him? Yeah, he got confused, so they brought him back, so I feel like they've been penguin. Nice one, Ozzy. So, that's not my words, I'm just saying. I'm a flat earther, we just say, okay? So, football on the moon is brilliant in zero graph, well, a little bit of graph. That happened. Go. Whatever happened to the space shuttle anyway, eh? They flew that over New York on the top of apparently a jumbo jet. Okay, couldn't go on his own. Oh, this guy here, Vetch. Yeah, Terry Vetch. He was on an interview on with Horny Willoughby and you know the ones that jump queues. What's their names? Yeah. So the queue jumpers he went on there with, and he came out with a load of stuff as well about how you know completely safe it was and not to. Hi, Emma on the moon. So he's got his door open, it's okay inside, you can see a guy in the background, two guys in the background, it's perfectly safe, it's only a vacuum, nobody dies. So apparently that's what we're doing, loopy-loop, different directions all at the same time, all in the vacuum of space, spinning, because we're all water apparently sticks to a spinning ball. Okay, let's try that in the garden, see if that goes down. So apparently, he's doing that. I don't know what the legality is in that space. We should actually check. That could be a criminal offence. We should actually report him. What do you think, Neil? Leave me out of there. Well, all right then. So Disney, NASA, they're all exactly the same organisation. They do exactly the same things. They are dream weavers, and they weave you a dream. So who's the most intelligent person in the world then, Albert? I don't know, don't ask me, ask Nikola Tesla. Yeah, no shit. Okay, please notice, in German, Stein means stone, and an expression dumm wie ein Stein means total idiot. This is why he poses for the photograph sitting on a big stone, mocking all that knew the meaning of his name, Albert Idiot. And he's got really lovely little lady sandals on you, like you do, you know, you're a lady. It's alright, he's a lady. Okay. So we're getting a village. Now, Antiquitech. Now we're going to move on. I'm going to briefly go through this, right? I've got a subject that I basically brought out maybe about 7 years ago now, and it's taken off. It's everywhere. If you're through TikTok, if you're everywhere, everyone is talking about mudfloods and Antiquitech. Antiquitech is a form of free energy. Okay. Now this place that we rely on now relies on explosive energy, like the internal combustion engine. Back in these days, it was implosive energy. And there's another form of energy here, guys, and it's magnetism. And these people of this era, they knew how to harness a charge from magnetism. Like Tesla told us about, the unlimited potential. All you needed to do was tease it out. They used the things called resonators. These things here with mercury balls. Some people say red mercury, but mercury and balls into resonators. They would oscillate and vibrate in the wind or in the ether, and they would create a charge, which would go down into these things here, which are tiles. Tiles, they're basically conductive, and they would be used later for energy, free energy. The free energy of the civilization we regard as tartaria, okay? And they were in a golden age. If you think to yourself, oh, well, they invented the railways, the underground, and they did all of this stuff in the 1800s, there's hard evidence, right? They were actually digging the railways out, and they were already there. Same for the underground, London Underground, for example. There's the crown and resonators you get on tops of buildings. You see them all over the place still. There's some I see in Bournemouth in the town centre. They had some Antiquitech, still old Victorian Antiquitech on some of the buildings. And this is essentially what I uncovered. I uncovered this by going through ancient manuscripts, Lied van der Haar atlases from 1733, and I noticed an abundance of churches, and then I just put two and two together, and I thought, well, the higher up you get, the more electromagnetic potential, more static potential. So the higher up you go, like a church spire, you're up there, and you put a resonator on top, makes perfect sense. And I also think post-reset there was more EM activity than there is now. The people's clothes sort of suggest that they got some sort of protection on. The women always wear one frilly gowns, which makes no sense in a muddy environment. They've got to pull them up, but all of the men wear hats. And they all seem to have uniforms as well. So, basically, they're all saying good morning to one another, and they're all in black uniforms like they're mourning something. I wonder what it is. So yeah, the antenna, the conductor, the ball of mercury, the resonator here, and then it goes through a frequency into conduits, and then transformed into usable energy sources. Okay, now they would have had this active up until probably the late 1800s. We think that they were switched off. I've got some evidence if it's still active. I'll actually show you in this post if I get enough time. But they sort of got rid of it by 1900 with the advent of Edison, because if everyone's basically got free electricity, where are they going to put the meters? And they've just slaved everybody with their utilities for the last 100 years. Because, I was watching a YouTube video only earlier, and there was people living in caves in Iran, and they had nothing, and they didn't need anything, and they weren't particularly worried, and there was no one at their door either. And they didn't seem to have a care about anything. You know, they didn't have any resources, and they didn't have any electricity. They didn't seem too bothered about it either. So all China, Japan, all have these things. These are also resonators, and they're on tops of pagoda buildings. Everyone's got their own version of Antiquitech. Here is an old picture of Russia. What you see there is abundance on the old photographs of these things here. U-bends. What you don't see is any wires attached to them. They're not the telegraph, because we can see the telegraph in other pictures alongside. These things are just there, and they're next to these things, which is electricity generators, and then it's fed down into these things, which are these U-bends, and then that is circulated through, I don't know if you noticed the amount of steel bollards and chains that are all in antiquity, and railings, which they all removed in World War II. They said that was for the war effort. It wasn't. It was to cut down Antiquitech. Trams, in the past, were they all run by a horse cart or overhead electricity? Not in this case. You can make your own mind about what the propulsion is for this, but it's going over a steel bridge, which has Antiquitech. This thing has got something inside, which is self-generating. It's picking up electricity straight from the ether, and it's running on that. And that's exactly what they were doing. Cars were electric before they were petrol. The internal combustion engine was still on it after 130 years, makes no sense whatsoever. These bends here, no wires between them, they were energy transference. This tram here, it's in the centre of Moscow. What is this propulsion? There's no wires above it, there's no horses on it. This is in the days before the motor car, when it's still a horse and cart. So I think they were using free energies on trams, and some of the trams show you these things inside. I can't tell you what they are, but this ball inside, we see quite a bit in antiquity. We've got some ideas of what this ball could be, but it's a magnetic device, which I'm going to do on a future post. Okay? I've also talked about circuit board cities. Now it seems that all of the cities are on older grid patterns, and places like Angkor Wat in Cambodia can be literally overlaid with the motherboards of the computer, and they're identical. And church floors have got conduits for motherboards of computers. Now, why would they be doing that? Because the whole thing is acting like a computer. The whole thing melted down like a computer melts down and gets reset. This place has been designed a long time ago, and we have been reset. We can see the existence of the older world, and this circuit board city, okay, is it everywhere. You can see it everywhere. You can see in Siberia parallel lines. I posted them on my channel. They'll go for hundreds of miles, perfectly straight, perfectly perpendicular. Somebody's been putting these petroglyphs there in the past. But what we're saying is the grid system for an older world, older civilization, highways, cities, etc. You can see these lines all over Nevada and places like that in America. These lines, these petroglyphs, these grids are worldwide. This place, so this is the SkyTrain. This is in a German city close to Frankfurt. And basically it's using electricity, and it's at the turn of the last century. This is 1900. This thing was built in the 1800s, and you can see this is an old world which they built everything on horse and carriage, yet for some reason they're able to put up these massive steel gantries, this massive steel thing for holding the train, and it's driving on electricity when the rest of the world is apparently on horse and carriage, but not so. You can see how superior and advanced these people are at this time. I think, because there's evidence Liverpool had a SkyTrain, and they got rid of it by the 60s. Philadelphia, New York, other places had SkyTrains as well. I think that the whole place had a load of SkyTrains in the past. But you can see the size of these viaducts. It just shoots through. Look at the size of these buildings in the past. Superior architecture. They used to use a thing called divine principles based on sacred geometry. Okay, they don't do that in the modern day at all. They can't do it. They've lost the technology, or they're just not going to repeat it. Buildings were living buildings. They're made of stone. Stone is crystalline by structures. You know, crystal holds memory. It's in your computer. You know, silicon chip. These buildings were conscious.
you can feel it. I've been into some, when I was back in my merchant navy days, I used to go to some of these big Russian buildings. I go in there, the ceiling was massive high. I felt like I was going to get a nosebleed. This thing was overpowering, when it's a building. How can a building be doing that to you? But, excuse me, so yeah, they were using amazing technology like that. Now, Antiquitech, this was caught last summer. Now, if you can imagine the energy fields, like you get off the top of pyramids, okay, electromagnetic or electric magnetic energy field vortex or torus, travelling above it, and it's been, you can see there are a couple have spotted it in America here above, and it's basically freaked them out a bit. And I've also got some evidence of Antiquitech still active. Excuse me. Let me just get rid of that. Oh, excuse me. How do I just make that smaller? Excuse me. That. Oh, there you go. Oh, that. Excuse me about that. So, Antiquitech. Now, this is a temple in Angkor Wat. In Phnom Penh, the capital of Cambodia. You hear that? So some of them are still doing it. Okay, now I was in the Czech Republic in 2021, and it's just full of Antiquitech, and literally at night when you go around, you can see like an aura or a glow around the Antiquitech, still to this day. I think there's still a lot of them, they're still primed for active Antiquitech, and in this case it's still going. And we've got a backup corroboration for that as well, because there's a YouTuber called UAP who found a magazine cover with that, basically doing that on the front. Whatever, that's like St. Elmo's fire, similar to that effect, but static electricity. And it's got that cracking and that clicking, Very unusual. So that's some evidence of Antiquitech active still to this day. So that is one more of my discoveries. Excuse me, with the microphone. And how long have I got, Ian? He's not there, is he? So another thing I discovered, and I covered it quite a bit in my book actually, is this technology. You have good of mine. The churches, or what I call the church devices, energy centres, were once healing centres. So what I suggest is after a reset, the people that come along after a reset, which we regard as arrivals, because most people have been in bunkers, have gone underground, and they come up and they find these churches with nothing to do with God or religion, by the way, until they took these over. And these pipes, these pipe organs, which are all connected together, they produce a sound, a resonance, a vibration. And this vibration can heal you, okay? They can eliminate 432, for example, frequency. So these places, churches, were healing centers. People used to go in there. They used to be elevated and exhilarated by the organ music. When they came out of there, they were like, oh my God, I'm born again. That was God. It wasn't God, it was the organ that did it. But so it's good for your organs or anything else that begins with org. There was one note, which they called the brown note, which they basically removed in the 1700s because apparently it was affecting people in the pews a little bit too much. It was getting embarrassing. So they removed that note. They dropped the tone. But it is a technology also that can create a charge. That can create a charge. I'm going to cover briefly, if I got enough time, the fasces, which is that thing there, which is what you see in Roman iconography, which is a bundle of sticks pressed together, which I proposed, and I got really popular actually, were a type of weapon used in the antique world, which is akin to a dew weapon or a phaser, something like along those lines. That was the bad side of it, but the good side of it, right, was healing, making plants grow with electroculture, making plants grow 4 times the size. So the key was, with this technology, which is regarded as technasmia, which is an arm of Antiquitech, another thing that I unfolded, was that they placed these beautiful organs under these stained glass windows,
which were treated with lead and specific properties. And these, they work like car speakers. They augment the resonance and the sound out into the ether outside. So everyone outside in the community is invigorated, is on a higher state of consciousness, literally being the best they can. And you can see it in the pictures of these people in the day. Everyone is healthy. I know they say that we were all chucking buckets of pee out to the window and had no culture whatsoever, but that is not the case, guys. We were highly, highly cultured in the past, more so than this now. This is going backwards. We've come backwards a lot, guys. You can just see it. Look at the handwriting of the people in the 1800s and you'll see exactly what I mean. That creativity is gone. None of us do that anymore, none of us. And the skills we need to like literally survive, like sewing, knitting, woodcraft, anything that we would need outside of the internet is lost to us. So you can see a Jesuit church here, and these windows, they all have a somatic pattern. If you don't understand somatics, vibration causes a pattern in water or sand. Each vibration causes a different cymatic frequency, and these windows are all set at a separate cymatic frequency to do a separate job. And these organs create the resonance and the sound. They're augmented through the stained glass windows, which have lead qualities in them and other properties as well. Especially the rose windows. There's literally magical properties for them. And they are beautiful. They are beautiful windows, these stained glass windows. And you can see the pipes on here, they're facing out into the church for people to get the full blast of this organ music, which was where it was at in the past. Healing, well-being, electroculture, better environment, better energy in the air, full stop, not, not that everything is up, and that's what these things create. Well, it is now. It is now. I'm not missing it. I've been around 56 years. Things were not like this years ago. The 90s were okay, if I remember rightly. They were okay, not brilliant, but they were okay. So let me just show you Fache. So this was probably one of my biggest decodes. Where you get a bundle of rods put together, okay, and it creates a charge when you do so. And this thing is encoded right through Antiquity. You can see it on all sorts of buildings. This is the Faches and the Libris. And they actually state in the official narrative this was a weapon, it was used as execution. I'm suggesting this is an ancient electromagnetic weapon, and I'm suggesting that the technology of the ancients was electromagnetics, okay, magnetism. Not like today, with explosive technologies. This is implosive technologies. This is where it's going at. There's just no toxics. There's just no waste. There's no... These are uranium rods, which coincidentally look exactly like the Faches. I've been thinking all along about the nuclear hoax, and I've been thinking that, they're boiling water using Faches radiation rather than the uranium that they say is, also dangerous to get a hold of, and all of the mining. And this is my laser. My laser is exactly the same as the Faches and does exactly the same thing. It's a laser. It's built the same as the Faches, all bounded rods put together, and it's exactly the same as an undersea cable. This was put down under the Atlantic Ocean, apparently by the Great Western, Brunel's famous ship, and it was the first under-Atlantic sea cable to connect Europe to America. They're supposed to put it down in the 1860s. This thing, if you look at it on the side, is exactly the same as a Faches, and I'll put it, it's exactly the same as a church window, because we're all looking at the same technology. Allow me to continue. There's the sea cable that apparently went into there. I think it was there already, and there you can see the outside of the somatic window. I'll just show you that before I show you this. So there's experiments you can do with, oscilloscopes, water experiments like your motos, where they show you, human feelings like love and empathy will express beautifully in water. And words like hate or despise will look like lumps of poo in water. These are somatic patterns, and they are the same as what you exhibit in church windows, showing you that church windows were a somatic science, and they were a resonation science, and this place is missing out big time. This comes back, and the whole world will benefit. In the beginning was the Word, Word is a vibration. First words in the Bible in the beginning was a word, and then the word was God. The word was love, I think. DNA, if that's a thing, but the somatic patterns on an oscillator unit are exactly the same as what you get with church windows. Not only church windows, star forts. If you don't know about star forts, these are everywhere in the world. There's at least 10,000 we know of. They're supposed to be put there in antiquity, probably around the Middle Ages, they think. They say they were defensive bastions, but that's not so, because everyone in the world shared exactly the same plans for the star forts. They had exactly the same as the science of church windows. It is fractal geometry breaking off. This is showing you this is a highly advanced science, and it's nothing to do with knights and horses and cannons and battles, because that's what they want us to think we were. And I really don't think that's all we are. I think it's all bullshit. I don't think that anybody's going battling anywhere. All of the wars are on television, you know? And the bombing campaigns of World War II, that had to be something with just getting rid of antiquity. You know, Dresden, for example. You know, there's no reason that should have happened to, you know, a civilian centre. All those people, it's just absolute murder. And what is it? The most beautiful pearl of antiquity in the whole of Europe, you know, and it just all got burnt out. To hide this technology of the past, to hide this beautiful Antiquitech. So this is the flower of life, but it's also identical to when you look down at Faches, because it is all exhibiting the same thing. It's all interconnected and it's all exactly the same science. Faches science. And that's what it's all about. Here is an experiment you can see in somatics. This is quite beautiful actually. This is sound. And what you can see, sound. So they put a sound through it, and then the ball will show you the somatic pattern for that sound. Sound. Looks like that. And the colour also. They add the colour. The colour is the sound too. So, sacred geometry in somatics, which is in technology, which they don't practice in the modern day. This is how far we come backwards. So I'll just give you a couple of examples of mudflood. So in my subject, what I propose is there was a cataclysm, some sort of event. All ancient cultures tell you there was a reset. All ancient cultures, the Bible in Genesis, Noah's flood. You go into the Veda, you go into the Jewish religion, you go into Arab, the Quran, all of them talk about a reset. Now what we're going through right now is the apocalypse. This is the apocalypse. It means the unveiling. The truth is going to be shown to us, guys, but we've got to be spiritually ready. We've got to be right inside. We've got to do it right. Because this is our only shot. This is the crossroads of humanity. We're going to break it, or we're going to make it. We're going to be their bitches forever, or we're going to make it, and we're going to stand on our own 2 feet. Because we can manage. We don't need them. Our greatest enemy is the man. How can that be? You know, we've been terrorized and tortured since day one. They're all of the, you know, stacked against us, you know? All of it. How is that supposed to be? So we're going to have a fair shot of it in the future, and that's what's coming. All of this technology, no more bills, free energy. There's old ladies freezing their ass off in winter when they got free energy. Sickens me. They got it. They got free energy. And they've been using it as well, you know? I think that these wind farms, for example, I don't think they're generating shit. I think that they're actually burning electric off, is what I think. I don't think, yeah, I really do. And the money they're making on them is what the price of the thing is. They're like $500,000. They're all over Texas, aren't they? And the price of putting them up and the footprint of them, excuse me, I need to scroll through images, so I need to do this a second. Okay, so evidence of mud flood. So what we're seeing here is buildings. What you're going to see when you go out into Bournemouth, especially along the Lansdowne Road, there's loads of them, is buildings that have a lower level window which is completely submerged below ground level. Now if you asked an architect what exactly was the thinking about these digs or these basement buildings, they say, oh, it was in vogue at the time. But in a country like Britain it makes 0 sense, because we have snow, we have floods, we have water. These things always get damp. They're not healthy places to be. And everywhere has these underground cellars and windows everywhere in Christendom. You've been seeing this in the past on this building. The mud came up to the second story. They dug it all away and they made it visible. And the front door you can see in the air there, that would have been the original front door to walk in. And the rest would have been, you know, as you can see is there, the veranda. So that has been dug out of the mud. And you can see examples here of the world that is below our feet. And this is in Paris. This is maybe 20 stories below ground level. And there's, pillars holding up an ancient world that was there before. Building sites are brilliant for showing us the ancient world and the world that was below our feet. And it all gets filled with mud. You can see, again, with Egypt and all ancient cultures, Baalbek, the Phoenicians, the Babylonians, the Persians, all of them have got exactly the same narrative, okay? There was a flood. If I was to hazard a guess, I would say that the gates of Colossus or the gates or the Straits of Gibraltar would have been landlocked at some period. There would have been some seismic activity. I think that crashed in, looking at what the Atlas Mountains look like, on the other side of, I don't know if any of you have seen that, but it's just a 1,000-foot cliff that's just been split. You look at it, you're like, whoa, what happened here? And maybe the water just came in and flooded the entire civilization that is now the Mediterranean. Yeah, that could have been an entire civilization that is, well, there's enough evidence that could have been because there's an entire city off the coast of Alexandria in Egypt, okay? And then you can just go under there and there's streets and statues and all the rest. They just said that, it just got taken by water over time, whatever. And this is a picture of Kansas City. This was a city full of mounds. Apparently, I say they went in there and dug the mud out. You can see houses up here and just literally, 50-foot high mounds of mud that everyone came in and removed. And this is the idea of what we're thinking, is a lot of the buildings, they got sub-basements, sub-basements and sub-basements. In Nottingham they go 3 stories, in Cardiff they go 2 stories, different cities even deeper. And you can see this classical building, and we say that, I'm not saying that it actually does go that far down, but there have been many mud floods over the periods of time, and that could indeed be the scenario. And other evidence of mud flood, this is in Bunker Hill in Boston. That hill there was completely removed. The funny thing is there was a Greco-Romano obelisk on top from what is essentially the Roman world. What's that doing in Boston? I don't know, they removed it. They removed the muddy hill that was Bunker Hill and all the houses around it. You can see here, removing the mud, Kansas City. There's plenty of examples, you can see the same for Seattle. This is a city or a town they found under a field in Texas, the Texas Wall. And you can see there's windows, in some examples you can literally see like Phoenician architecture in some of these buildings. But as you can see, it's below the fields, below ground level, okay? People were living there then, when it was below ground level. There's another example of Paris. All mud flooded from the old world. There's another example. And that's what, like 8 stories down and there's still pillars from however long ago. There's a Coptic church, and as you can see, that's still mud flooded in. There's a lot of examples where you can see in time, late 1800s, these places are still full of mud. They come in and dig them out later. And I think they've done that for the whole of the world, which is why you get, like with these windows, you get a retaining wall and a railing in front of them in every single regard, away from the window, maybe a couple of feet. So if you're in the basement or that room yourself, you're looking out the window, all you see is a wall. All you see is a wall. Makes no sense whatsoever. So what I think, rather than remove 1 billion tons of mud, they just dug the mud away from the front of the buildings and put retaining walls up and left the rest in and just hired the road level, which is essentially what they did. So, there's a statue of what we know is to be a Phoenician, and that's buried in the mud from civilization, and that's in Texas as well, the Texas Wall, which is a civilization under a Texas field. This is happening everywhere in the world. This is a Russian town, as you can see. They got beautiful, large masonry stone buildings, but as you can see, the windows are half buried. They can't manage an infrastructure. They can't even manage a sidewalk. They have wooden planks and all of the streets. And can you imagine that in winter, how anything would get around? How did they even manage to build these places? How did they even drag it there? He's wondering the same, look. That's Pompeii. Pompeii, which I think is a bit of a sire. So mud even in the modern day can go to hell. This is actually a catastrophe of manure and mud in the rain in the turn of the last century. It's just turned to a quagmire. So it's just a good example how difficult it would have been to build antiquity if the roads go like that when all they had was horse and buggy. Makes you think. With some of the examples that I could show you of colossal architecture. For example, the Moscow Opera House. They dug it out. This is the ground level here, on that line I'm showing you. And these doors, that window, that door, that window, at one time were all under the mud and below ground level. It makes you wonder why they would have windows below the mud, but they dug it all out, and that's what you see. And I seen exactly the same thing 2 years ago when I was in Prague station, exactly the same. They dug it all away from the side, and there was a door down there, a beautiful wooden door that was under the mud from the old world, which just blew my head off. I put it on a video, but hard evidence, you know. This evidence of mud flood is in every city. You can check it out for yourself. Half-buried windows make no sense to man or beast, especially in places that have snow and ice. And this is one I picked apart. This is the Binnenhof in The Hague, and there's a photograph here of 2007. And what we find, I did the measurements on it just to prove it to myself and to everyone else, actually, that this place was further down in the mud. That much. There's the ground level of 2017. Okay. And there. These piles, these pillars here, excuse me, have mostly disappeared. A lot of them have disappeared. So that has taken a mud flood as well, 17th century Den Haag. These got dug out in India. You can see that the road was sheer. They dug it out and it's exposed all what essentially are columns and stonework. This building here has got mud up to the side of it. So what came first, the house or the mud? Make your own mind up. That's mud floods, and that's in Kansas City as well, when they dug all the mud out. So that is another subject. I've been doing many of them over the years. Antiquitech, mud floods, balloons, God almighty. So much. How am I doing there, bro?
All good, all good.
All good?
All good.
Okay. Another subject I've been looking into is...
Is anybody falling asleep yet?
Huh?
Is anybody falling asleep?
You actually listening?
Then we're quite good. We're all good.
It's like a flat today, isn't it? That's my show on the weekend where I do wiggly flat thumbs and crack jokes. So expositions happened everywhere in the world. What I think is the expositions were in existence of an older world. They completely destroyed all the expositions. Hardly any of them left in the modern days. They say that these were built out of temporary products, but there's many cases, especially in Paris, that some of this stuff is left today. There's no way that this was made out of temporary inferior products. What we see here is the 1900 exposition we had in Paris, which was the Eiffel Tower was built for, which is obviously some sort of free energy antenna. If you can look here, this row you can see on the first floor, and there's these things here on the top, these little shapes look like shells. That's completely gone. Then apparently there was a fire in the Eiffel Tower, because apparently metal catches alight, but there was a restaurant here, apparently had a fire, the whole thing went up. And all of this gantry with the free energy stuff is not there in the modern day. It's completely gone. Just something else I'm going to draw your attention to, weirdly, is that girl, that statue there, seems to have a human face. You see that? That's one, yeah. Well, it's meant to be a statue. I think it looks lifelike. It's spooky to me. But so this is St. Catherine's in St. Petersburg. Now, what we find when we do our research, there's a period in the 1800s. So photography's been around since roughly the late 1830s, they say, lithographs, etc. But then I think it's a really easy technology. I think they were there before. But there's a period between 1850s and 1870 when you can look at any city in the world and there's nobody at home. There's nobody about. Like, the streets are empty. Cities with, supposed to have 500,000 people. St. Petersburg, it's probably 300,000 people at this stage. There's no one at home. This is St. Catherine's Church. Superior Antiquitech. If you read this book, it's based on the 4 angels, which is this model here, which is the dome. Okay, Mount Meru, and these 4 pillars, one on each corner, which basically is the 4 angels, magnetic torus for the existence of the plane we live on, and it's replicated in architecture, microcosm to macrocosm. They repeat everything, guys. So the expositions had superior architecture like this, all taken away to the modern day. This is in Boston. This is the type of architecture. As you can see, this one shows what we call mudflood attributations, which is a front door, which is up in the air, and all of these low windows, which are cut in half. That's a lovely old picture of Boston. And you can see some of these resonators or vanes. They're called vanes because they have veins through them which interact with electromagnetic charge. You could literally buy flags online on eBay today that basically capture charge. Flags. So a flag could have been a technology as well. This is Rochester in New York, and this is a beautiful example in the state of New York of Tartarian architecture. It is sublime. It's based on as I said, sacred geometry and sacred principles. They have these holes, these windows, these round windows, which are what we call technasmia ports, which are like smaller versions of the church windows, because even these smaller buildings would be creating a charge and would be beneficial. All of these buildings were living buildings. So that's a beautiful example, is Rochester. This is in Dresden. That got bombed in the war, but they rebuilt it up. It's a beautiful cathedral, but my God, again, 4 angels technology. The dome and 1, 2, 3, 4 on each corner. Exactly the same as the place we live. You see an abundance of railings as well. We think railings were a type of energy transference. They say in the official narrative, they removed all of the metal from the railings in Britain for the war effort in World War II. But when you research it, you look into it, they say none of the metal ever made it to any armaments factory and it all got dumped in the Medway. So it was just to get rid of, this stuff was a technology. They couldn't really carry on going to go into the modern day with what they had in mind. And they had it all planned out. Things are planned out years in advance. That's the Parliament building in Ottawa. It's a rotunda building, beautiful, fully Antiquitech. There's some more examples of Antiquitech. You can see one of these resonating, energy providing buildings, and again with these U-bends that had never have any wires on them, and built by giants. Another idea is much of the architecture that we have is more suited for giants. It's just ridiculous to think that you would build an arch now this big for people. This is in Grand Central Station, and these tops here, these are Corinthian tops. This is Rome, And this building, well, actually Penn Street Station building, which was just as good, just as beautiful. They got rid of that. They had to. So another one of my decodes was we all right, Ian? Air balloons were the transport of Tartaria. Okay, they got dumped in favour of jet planes, so they could rip everyone off on jet fuel hooks. Okay. So they got rid of this with the Hindenburg disaster, which was a psyop. If you watch a video, there's at least two balloons involved in 2 different locations. Okay, I've shown people on my posts. That was a psyop to put people off the idea of riding on completely energy efficient, relaxing, safe balloons, which everybody was travelling on. What's more, if you notice on top of buildings, you get what's called a belfry, which is a tower without a bell in it. This will give you an opportunity for a balloon to come in to your city and moor up, and you get straight out, and it delivers you to the place where you want to be. Now, don't think this is beyond the bounds of possibility. They actually did it. Yeah, the Hindenburg used to couple up to the top of the Empire State Building, a doorway would come out, a gantry would come out, and everyone would climb out of the Zeppelin into the Empire State Building, and they were delivered straight to downtown New York. And they've done it in LA, in Chicago. These balloons were the transport of the day. So, transport expositions. So, expositions also have can I put it? Social engineering program puts in them, okay? So it tells people how the world is. Heliocentrisms, they're showing people. Incubators, where they show you that they can make a baby's growth a year in 3 days. That's what they're saying they can do. So a year-old after 3 days, they're saying they can do in exposition. Was it Seinfeld that said his father was... Yeah, Seinfeld. He said his father was an incubator baby. He was, wasn't it? Yeah, from one of the expositions. So really, if they could really pull that off, they could have really increased the population tenfold. Because the population growth makes no sense, guys. The whole world just proved out of nowhere. In the 1800s, the biggest city in the world apparently, mid-1800s is London, and then all of the others, New York, and everything else is catching up. And then before you know, there's just like tens of millions in every city all over the world. Where did everyone come from? I know you're thinking that, oh, well, everyone made it with everyone else, but that, if you do the mathematics on it, and another thing, they're telling us there's X amount of billion in this place. I can tell you that's a lie, okay? You go to Texas, right? There is nothing. As far as the eye can see, there's room for everyone in the world. There's just nothing but space. Everyone's in the cities. You go to the country, there's nothing. We are not overpopulated. That's just another psyop to scare you to think that shortages. There's less of this, there's less of that. Climate change, blah, 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 blah. It's not the case, guys. So these U-bends again, you can see this is coming from some sort of energy plant by here with the resonator, you can clearly see there, producing free electricity. You can see there's a guardian, he's actually guarding some of these. And if you can see, there's like these little beads or white balls on the side of this, which it's some sort of, if they're using a somatic or, some porcelain, then that would have conductive properties. And there's another mud-flooded Coptic church, deep in the mud. So there's the world right before us. This is Wall Street. Apparently, all of our civilization you see in the background, including the Greco-Roman temple in the background, and this Greco-Roman temple, and all these massive buildings, were all built on horse and carrot. Okay. Yeah, of course they were. And here's San Francisco, a city that was completely destroyed more than once. I've covered it many times on my channel. Quite a nerving story. I won't be going there this time. Here's another exposition, a beautiful example of a free energy building, again with that 4 angels technology, the Mount Meru in the middle and the 4 angels on the outside. They are, if you're wondering what 4 angels are, they're electromagnetic vortices which run this place. Basically, the sun and the moon, okay, they travel on electromagnetic push and pull. So if you can imagine a circle in the sun like this around that plane, it's electromagnetics that are pushing it onwards and the sucking of a magnet that's pushing it this way. And it springs to the middle and spring comes, which is why it's called spring, and it springs back out again, giving us our sun. It's as simple as that. Electromagnetics drive the sun and the moon. So there's the world we had before. Beautiful, wasn't it? Yeah? This is the same site in the modern day. They do it everywhere. I bet Bournemouth seafront in the Victorian era was out of this world. Yeah, like most British seaside resorts. And now they put all of this weird stuff in the 70s there. It looks bloody dire. So, yeah, there's the world before. Even a beautiful pond under just a bog standard bridge with all of that, fountain and everything. Just attention to detail of these people. There it is in the modern day. Vandalism and junkies. Awesome. That's the world we got now. We haven't gone backwards, and the effort to uglify buildings. This is this beautiful building. It's got blowholes in the side from, that free energy advancement in the past, and they just take it all off, and there it is in the modern day. They're taking the technology away. They do not want to have it. They cover it up as much as they possibly can. There's another example. It's got a Technasmia port. This would have been, giving vibrations out into the atmosphere. Covered, gone. And that one's in Brooklyn. That one there, beautiful building. And these things, theatres, this one's got beautiful, these balls you'll see everywhere. And I think there's more going on with them. They're another type of Antiquitech to do with Mercury. It's a beautiful little building, but the low window, again, below ground level. Front door, up in the air, makes no sense. What happens on a frosty morning? You're going to land on your ass, and you're going to break your neck. But that's not important. We didn't design this place. Somebody else did. Look at that, though. And what you find with these buildings as well, right, is they're predominantly top-heavy. If you were an architect and you do central line and symmetry, these buildings are predominantly top-heavy. They could tip over. And all of the juice, meaning the statues, the Antiquitech, is all above the top level, the top floor, where you're never going to see it unless you're in a balloon. then you're going to see it coming down the road. And then you land your balloon into the belfry, which is one supplied for on this building. It will couple on there, you climb off your balloon, smaller balloons as well, straight into this building. Also the obelisks, like Nelson's Column, other obelisks, they have staircases in them and they have doors at the bottom. So you could land on them, on a platform, down the staircase, come out of the door, and you've been delivered in the centre of the city. And this is Antiquitech gone insane. This is in Brussels, in Belgium. You can see all of these just sticking up, interacting with the ether to basically get a charge. And basically, this thing is just an energy centre beyond belief. This is a superior building. And apparently, this is from the medieval period. Okay, this is a Gothic cathedral. So it was built by monks with copper chisels. Awesome. They smashed it. Didn't have time for praying or anything, because it's always like just building brilliant stuff. Just makes you think, doesn't it? So yeah, that's been my field over the years. I've really enjoyed it. It's so beautiful to look at. You know, these are the expositions. They were fully electrified. You know, some of these examples, they're electrified before electric was a thing. You know, the first electrified city was supposed to be Buffalo. First electrified building was supposed to be JP Morgan's in New York, all attributed to Edison. But these things, you know, some of them 1890s, fully electric, and it would have been free energy. They didn't have massive plants to generate electricity until the Erie, at Lake Erie, you know, at Niagara Falls was the first type of its generator of its time, and that wasn't even in the planning of this period. So you've got to wonder where they're harnessing the electricity for to run them. You can see this building, all the lower windows half cut, perfect mud floods, a massive architecture. And this is in Paris, beautiful old-world building, absolutely beautiful, with two belfries, meaning no bells in them. So yeah, just briefly before I pack this up, I've got enough time, a minute. Also another technology, bells. Bells in churches. Now a bell in a church will chime every 15 minutes. Now it gives off a resonance and vibration. If you imagine that topping up a charge, and then on the hour, the big dong, 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 and that will give it a full charge. So every 15 minutes, it's going to be charging up, whatever technology is going on in the resonator, and the church bells, abroad you can hear one church bell go, and another one will answer, and another one will answer, and they answer further out into the city. You know, they don't go all in unison, they literally are synchronized. Because it basically takes that charge right the way through the town of bell technology. And bells, yeah, they got a specific quality. Some of them can be 4, 3, 2. The bells that we got now are not the bells from the old day. They were removed in the Second World War by Adolf Hitler and Stalin. They removed all of the bells from Europe. They sent for the armaments program again, and they were all destroyed. Why? Because they were made of a specific metal for vibration and resonance. They're all being replaced in the modern day. And in the First World War, they had a collection of all the bells of Europe as well. So none of the bells that are now, very few, are the original bells. They've been destroyed. So that's another form of technology, and free energy as well. So these expositions, none of them exist. They all burnt down. Most of them are destroyed and demolished. And there's an example of Moscow, beautiful Antiquitech, covering Moscow. I've actually shown that picture. And this is in Belgium. I've actually seen this building. Beautiful architecture on it. It's just so decorative, but again, mud flood, low windows. And this is a picture of when the Romans visited India. This is a picture of Lucknow. Something really bad happened in Lucknow in the 1800s. What you see is classical buildings, but in this picture, the ground is littered by hundreds of skeletons. Something really bad happened to Lucknow, some sort of genocide in the days of the Raj. So did the railway lines really get dug in the 1800s, or were they there already, just got dug out? Because we got endless amounts of evidence that they actually were digging out existing railway lines. And we've got plenty of these evidences. And I would think that would include the underground. You've got to think, when they dug all these railway lines out and all of these roads, there must be 1 trillion tons of mud. Does anybody ever wonder what they did with the mud? What, they go and sprinkle it over all the fields? Where did it all go? It must be 1 squillion tons of mud. Yeah, right, because they didn't, they were already there, the structures were already there. Look at this thing. Greco-Romano building, looks like it's been through Armageddon, all reeds on top, everything growing because it looks like it's been at the bottom of a fish tank, because it has been at the bottom of a fish tank. It's been in a flood. You can see that's flood damage. But again, just a solid block building that was designed to withstand reset, because they did that with the past. These buildings, this building, these buildings, the people who designed them, they knew about reset, and they put, you know, clauses in to make these buildings survive. You just higher tiers, so the water's higher, you could just walk off into a higher balcony. And this was the biggest building of the 1800s in Brussels again, and it's the town hall, the Hotel de Ville. And it was the biggest building in the 1800s, a fantastically big building, but again, many layers below the ground. That had to be there already. And these beautiful buildings, this is in Ottawa again, all built by horse and cart. And this, just to finish up, these pictures here are of St. Petersburg, 1850s. And this city is supposed to have over 300,000 people at the time, which is a major European city. There's no people. There's no horses, there's no life. I'll give you more. There's no infrastructure. They didn't even have time to put lampposts up or anything. Nothing is there. And no people. So we think that, you know, these buildings look like they're buried to me. You know, this thing here looks like it had loads of steps once coming out, and, you know, these are buried as well. This looks like the tops of buildings, you know, that they're all buried, you know, in mud. And again, you're never going to see a soul, guys. You're never going to see any birds, any dogs, any pigeons. And what you do see in these photos is vanilla skies. They always AI out the backgrounds because they're hiding something in the skies. I think it's the balloons, the transport of the day, and war. What's going on with the sun at that time? Here's some pictures of the mud being dug out of after the American Civil War. They went in, they say they reclaimed and rebuilt it all after the American Civil War, but I think they weren't. I think they were digging out mud. You can see there's a lamppost here, a ladder going up it, or a telegraph pole, and it's way buried in the mud, and they're digging it out. Okay, here's other examples of them all digging the mud out in the American Civil War, which I think is a cover story for a wider catastrophic event. Again, below ground level, windows, looking out into nothing. That would have been a previous civilization. Again, no people, no infrastructure, no lampposts, no people, no sidewalks, no nothing. Just a city devoid of people. You can make your own minds up about that one. Spooky, eh? So, St. Petersburg, all of the cities that we've looked into at the same period, no people. Electricity, we had electric cars, there they are. This is an electric bus that was taking people around 1800s. We had electric cars before they went to the internal combustion engine, which is stupid. This is my last final mudflood evidence. This is in Liverpool city centre, and this statue was basically up to this top level. This was road, or this was the level of the road, and all of that, you can see there, including that window, was buried below ground level. There it is there. You can see, that's how much was showing above. And then they dug it all out, and all of that was below. You know, so if you're looking out that window, you'll see mud. So this is from when that building was above ground level, and it's all been mud flooded in. It's quite simple. So that's me, I think, guys, for the day. And there's electricity being used. Before electricity was being used, free energy electricity there in Russia. Before they had it in America, they were enjoying it. No problemo. So there's me, fat of British, wiggly flat thumbs. Hope you enjoyed my little presentation. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Ian.
Ladies and gentlemen, what can I say? Martin, give it up for Martin.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming.
It does just go to show that we are all woken up to the shape of the earth, but we have no idea what it is.
Nope.
We don't know.
It's not
anything.
a globe. It's not a globe, though.
And thanks to Martin, his books, his research, we know that there were people here before us. What it is, we still don't know. But we appreciate Martin, we appreciate your work.
They were smart.
Thank you very much indeed, Martin.
Thanks.
Are there any questions for Martin? Do we have any questions?
Go on, mate, what's happening?
Okay, I'm going to start at the back, if that's all right, and then we'll go this way. Eric. Oh. Eric, hello. What have you got to say?
You said some research also, I believe, but where's all the mud come from, and how do they create the mud?
Good question. Right.
Very good question.
So,
very good question.
Water below us. Right, there's water
below us on the water table, okay? So if you get like seismic activity, basically this happened in Lisbon in the past, and it happened in
Port Royal
in Jamaica in the past. The entire city sunk into the mud. what happened was an earthquake. Oh, ta love. What happened was an earthquake, and the place ground and oscillated, and just shook, okay? And basically, it mixes with the water table, and it all turns to mud, okay? There's another idea, is if a mud, or if there's a giant tsunami and a wave, also volcanic activity and ash, which there would be in a reset, all of that. So it's a mixture of mud, remains of the reset, and ash as well, you can find in it.
It seems to be quite specific in specific areas, doesn't it?
Sorry?
The mudflood seems to be in specific areas.
No, it's everywhere, it's everywhere. It's on Easter Island. The Moe on Easter Island, okay, are coincidentally buried exactly the same depth as mudflood the rest of the world, 25 to 30 foot, okay? And the Moe are buried up to there next year. The rest is below ground level. No one can explain it unless there was a mudflood. So I think this thing happened everywhere. If it happens on Easter Island, the most remotest island in the world, it's happened everywhere. It was a cataclysm everywhere. Worldwide.
Excellent, excellent. Next question, please, from you had your hand up.
Oh, thanks, sir. Hiya.
Just wondering about the pyramids in Cairo. Have you looked at those?
Yes, I have. I've done hundreds of vlogs and stuff.
Well, I've had the fortunate opportunity to go there, and you literally arrive at the city, and you arrive in the city of Cairo, and you've got literally pyramids.
On the outskirts of the city, isn't it?
The city is down, low down,
Right.
and it's literally on a cliff, the pyramids. So obviously there's a mud flood that's covering the
I have seen a picture of that. You just see cliffs where they come to, and it's like the Giza Plateau.
So I was just wondering if you've done any research.
Yeah, well, what I proposed for the, I literally done a series on it. What I proposed was, it was Noah's Ark, the main pyramid of Giza, because basically they had a King's Chamber was a resonating chamber. They call it the whistling chamber. It gives off an audible sound. You can hear it, the King's Chamber. But they also in the Queen's Chamber found up to 1 inch of salt, which is yet to be explained. And there's also a granite ball that they found, which is yet to be explained. So what I suggested, what I suggested was Noah's flood happened. And there's a thing called beaver technology. So it's technologies that beavers would use for dams, okay? Basically, pointy like star forts, so if a wave hits it, it would just break it up like a stealth bomber, okay? Pyramid is the perfect, the Great Pyramid of Giza has 8 sides. You can only see it from above, okay? And it acts as a breaker for water. So what I proposed is you get battleships, submarines that could go under for 90 days at a time, and they produce their own oxygen. Okay, so I suggested that it was an oxygen producing facility, because in front of it is a city underground. Under Giza Plateau is a city. Okay, how East got the keys, you can't go down there, you can't look at it, but it's massive, and it's under the Giza Plateau. So I think that people were. Not necessarily Noah and his family, but people were bunkering out. These pyramids are all over the world. If you Google it, there's like 70,000 hits for underwater pyramids. Cayman Sea, over Japan, stacks of pyramids underwater. From the previous day, there could be people still in there. I'm just saying. I think that they could have withheld a flood, and they could have produced oxygen as well, the same way as.
Do you think they're massive obelisks?
I think obelisks were a technology. I included in my book, there is evidence that some of them had gold on them. I think it was a gold called electrum, which is like a type of monotonic gold. It's a specific gold with really profound electronic qualities. So the obelisks, they would have been covered in electrum, and they're all on circuses, what are called circuses, which is basically a circle, okay? And you will find them at nodal points, where the energy is greatest. And this is all part of what I call the circuit board cities. These are part of... There's something in this place, right, which is making this reality, okay? Whether or not you want to think it in Tron or a computer game or a simulation or whatever it is, the fact remains that they put cities on exactly like motherboards of computers for a reason. And the obelisks, they would be like conduits, if you like, energy transference. And they're specifically put, if you look at the old maps of Rome, they put it in specific places. You can go to the Hippodrome in Istanbul. I went there once. Mad. They got all of the things they apparently collected from the Byzantine Crusades or what have you. And they got different obelisks from different parts of the world. They got one of them that's made of metal and it's just cool, like that. It's like, it just has to be technology, you know? Can't be anything else. But there's loads of Roman obelisks, you know, there. But I think they're technology, and a lot of them have got resonators on them anyway. So I think, yeah, they're definitely some sort of technology. That's what I think. Martin?
Yeah, the main question I was going to ask, because of all the buildings around the globe, I've got to throw that in.
Smack him here!
I've got to throw that one in. Everything that's across the earth, it's all red brick, and they still haven't found a company like Baggery's.
No, yeah, that's quite right.
They still don't know where all the bricks came from.
Yeah.
And most of the buildings that have been demolished, which they say are walls and that, is where they get all the bricks and that, and they just collected
The mud. What are bricks? Mud.
And I remember watching one where they've got the red bricks and you can...
Batteries.
There's batteries because it stores the electricity.
Indeed. But you know, the crystalline structure of these old masonry buildings as well. You know, if you look at it with a magnifying glass, you can see that it's just like, looks like just bunches of crystals put together, crisscrossed together. These buildings have technology. You know, they could probably hold memory. You know, some of them, honestly. Sven.
Cheers, thanks very much.
That's good.
Nice to see you, Martin.
How's it going, Cobber?
Great for you to come down to Bournemouth.
Wicked.
Best place to be.
Yeah.
Quick question really, it's more of a rhetorical sort of combo question really, a point I'd like to make, that is, and I'm sort of addressing the group a little bit with this, and it's good to have you here while I do, and that is that for me, a bit similar to yourself, but only later, I made my journey through flat earth to then come to the realisation that actually, not necessarily all my answers I need, but certainly all the discrepancies were highlighted through old world stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's right there.
Yeah.
It's in your face. If you know what you're looking at, and you know what doesn't make sense,
Exactly.
and you don't pay attention to the neighbours too much, or your school teacher, or your well-dressed newscaster on BBC, I prefer ITV. Although they're owned by the same people, aren't they?
Yeah.
That doesn't matter. But anyway, you know what I mean? It's like, ignore all the noise, and look right in front of you. It's just astounding.
Yeah.
I've got people calling me up now,
Evidence.
sending me photos saying, Sven, we were driving down A303 today,
Blows their
and
mind.
we drove past this building, what do you think? And I'm like, well, what are you saying?
Yeah.
Well, look, the windows are underground. And I'm going, yes, 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 people are getting it. Well, of course they're getting it. It's
Yeah.
just having the courage to question it and go, well, obviously, the narrative is nonsense.
Well, there is some direct evidence, but there's a ton of circumstantial evidence. You were going to take it to a court, a Crown Court. Yeah, there's enough circumstances. They'd have to look at it. It's just overwhelming and unexplainable
And the thing
outside of my narrative.
and how much more did we used to have before they got rid of a lot of it through the walls and through...
We're missing.
Yeah.
All the world and the people. There must be trillions that have gone before us, yet the graveyards only go like 1850, and you're lucky you're going to see nothing 16, 14, 15. Where they all gone? Yeah, you get saints in churches under plinths and that, but where are all the people that went before us? Gone. Everyone's gone. No.
Excellent. Thank you. Excellent. We've got the question here.
Thank you, sir. Hiya.
Right, up to you, Mel.
Yeah. My wife thinks we're giants, is she right?
No, I don't think we're giants. I think that we're giants because of the building.
Well, maybe the if you ever seen Gulliver's Travels, Lilliput, yeah, maybe we're the giants and there's people like Lilliput, like little people somewhere in another land.
I think it's fair to say that the Earth was once
Inhabited.
ruled or inhabited by giants. There is no question of that. In
Yeah.
any research that you want to go to, there is no question that...
And they were the ruling classes in a lot of cases as well, especially Rome.
If you go back to the biblical scriptures, when the Nephilim came about from the fallen angels breeding with the daughters of men, they bore giants. It's in black and white, it tells you.
Yeah.
There's plenty of evidence physically, and there's plenty of video evidence of giants. We had a race of giants. We are not that race. We are a different race.
Yeah.
We are a different set of people. there were giants before us.
I think we were cohabiting. I think they were here at the same time.
Most of them play basketball now.
Yeah, man. Well, that's it. They're in the Callum Globetrotters undercover, aren't they?
Any other? We've got a couple of questions here, Martin. Hold on just a moment. From this lovely lady at the back who's come all the way from London.
Hello.
Hiya.
I just wondered, why would Hitler want to destroy the Belgian?
Because of the qualities of the metal in them. You know, this Antiquitech had to go, you know. And then they had to play along with the electricity scam too, because they were using it, okay? And they had bills exactly the same. He had to get rid of Stalin, went more aggressive with it, with the bell smashing, but yeah. They had to get rid of Antiquitech. It was basically still active, you know, in the early part of last century. Like I showed you the examples, there's still some active even in one day in the Far East, probably is in Europe. It had to go, because how are you going to explain to everyone when buildings start charging up that everyone's paying bills?
You certainly don't want that sort of power with normal people, otherwise you have no control. So I think it's more control than the storing of esoteric knowledge, which we wanted to do.
Thanks.
Tony, we have a question.
Hi, Tony.
Hi. With Pompeii being all covered, you can find the bodies. With the mudflood, where do you think all the bodies were in the skeleton? Okay,
well, good question. No, it is a good question, because I think Pompeii is bullshit. I think it's some sort of psyop, okay? Yeah, the whole narrative for they couldn't get away and they waited, you know, for this event and they couldn't get away in Herculaneum, 2 cities were destroyed, the whole narrative for it. So they show you what essentially a plaster of Paris bodies where the people are sitting there, okay, with pumice piling on their city. So it's a good idea to just sit there and wait. Some of them are making love, some of them are asleep, there's other guys sitting like this. And then the pyroclastic flow comes through, 1,000 degrees to incinerate them all, and they're just all sitting there waiting for it. It makes zero sense. I think it's a psyop. I really do.
Excellent point, I think. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen, before we round the
Oh, I am.
Oh, it's all going insane. Hold on. Ladies first, sorry.
Okay, you're next. Hi, love.
What did happen to the mud? What did happen to the mud? Where did they put it?
Well, the mud that got taken away from the windows wouldn't have been that much. The roads are still the roads that were there, you know, with mud floods. So if you imagine a building, they dug the mud away from the front of the building. They built a retaining wall in front of the building. So the only mud they've had to really remove is the mud that's in front of the window. And then they leave, because you look out of a window in a mud flood cellar, you're looking at a wall, and the road's up there. So that road and all that mud, that's the mud. So they didn't have to remove 10 trillion tons of mud. They just left it there and dug the buildings out.
Because I was in Birmingham City Centre.
Oh, brilliant for mud flooders.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, there's these big archways, which aren't archways. You know, they're just half archways now.
Yeah. And the rest is underground.
Yeah, you can see all the basements.
Yeah, Birmingham's amazing for mud
It
floods.
is.
Yeah.
And I do think, they must have been giants to build these doorways.
Honestly, they're just absolutely huge.
Why would you have? There's no sense to build.
No sense whatsoever.
Big doorway.
Churches exactly the same. They have just massive doors, and just like you go through a little door here to get in there. They can't even. I noticed when I was in Europe last, they had some doors. I took photographs of, and the lock on the door was up here.
Amazing.
Yeah, for taller people. Thanks.
That's great. This gentleman here, he doesn't work out for anything.
Come on, big guy. What's happening?
Hi, so obviously you talk about Antiquitech, and there's clearly examples out there that the technology surrounding the electromagnetic resonators still exists, but do you know anyone
who's built one?
Personally, that has managed to reverse engineer or recreate something?
I do.
How would you find out about that yourself?
We nearly built a fasces.
Okay, so we've tried fasces, but a friend of ours in America, Chris, based on the work of my fasces, he built a nesting ball, like an orb, where the orb, like Russian dolls. So the orbs inside go ever decreasing smaller and smaller and smaller to get the ball in the middle, okay? Which is nesting technology. This will create a charge. So he invented this ball based on the work of that book, and he showed me on a post. He said every time he basically, how much water you can put a litre of water, and it will give you 1.5 litres back.
okay? And he said every time he did this, he said I had military helicopters over the house because basically it takes electromagnetic fog away, which is really noticeable to them. So this orbit created, nesting technology, created or cleared the electronic fog in the whole area, and they noticed, and they buzz him every time he does it. It's that profound. Nesting technology is a thing.
There is technology available, particularly, we just come back from Mexico. There's a person there and peoples there that have their own Tesla coils.
Yeah.
And the frequency that comes off of those things, and they leave them on all day, it's insane. And you feel different, you are different, you have a different cognitive ability in those areas. So the tech of the old world was for the benefit of mankind, and the rulers at some point said, hold on a minute, we're going to charge you for that. You know, electric's free, we're going to charge you. Water's free, we're going to charge you. So the group of individuals that came along and did whatever they did for the old world left us paying for everything, right? And not knowing everything. We're thick as anything as far as they're concerned. With the work of Martin, the flat earth and the way we wake up, slowly we're peeling back those layers, and hopefully we'll get the answers we always want. But yeah, it's an amazing thing. Technology's not hard. That was the thing. Technology isn't difficult. It's just that we forgot how to do it.
No, we're just taking another technology, another road.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's not the one we should
Ladies and gentlemen, any other questions for Martin before we go? Well, I'd just like to say thank you very much.
Thanks so much for coming, guys, and seeing me. I really do appreciate it. Thanks so much. Thanks for travelling far and everything. Really cool.
Martin on Flat Earth British or on Martin Liedtke, all on your social medias. Look him up. He's got some great books and great other information that we haven't had a chance to get here today. Thank you very much for coming.
Thanks.
We'll all see you next month.
Thanks, everybody. Woohoo! Don't flat wiggly thumbs. Stay flat, stay epic, guys. Okay, keep that vibration up. Where's your string comparison, Fred?
Well done, mate.
Thanks, bro. Thanks, everyone.